Hello everyone, and welcome back to Madrid Era. When people talk about the greatest goals in Real Madrid history, the same moments always come up. Zidane's volley in Glasgow, Sergio Ramos' header in Lisbon, Gareth Bale's bicycle kick against Liverpool, Cristiano Ronaldo's overhead kick in Turin. And rightly so. Those goals are remembered because they became part of football history. But what about the goals that didn't receive the same recognition?
The ones that may not have been the most spectacular, yet quietly changed the course of Real Madrid's history. Goals that opened the door to legendary eras, prevented unforgettable disasters, or made historic triumphs possible, only to be forgotten because another moment stole the spotlight. Today, we're looking at 3 goals that deserve far more recognition than they usually receive. Without them, some of the greatest chapters in Real Madrid's modern history might never have happened. So, let's take a look at some of the most underrated goals in Real Madrid history. Goal number 1. Karim Benzema away at Lyon in 2011. By the time Real Madrid arrived in Lyon for the first leg of the 2011 Champions League round of 16, this wasn't just another knockout tie. It was part of a much longer European pattern that had defined the club for years. For almost 6 consecutive seasons, Real Madrid had been eliminated at exactly this stage of the Champions League, repeatedly falling in the round of 16 despite the strength of their squads and the scale of expectations around them. From 2005 through 2010, the story kept repeating itself. Strong group stage campaigns, high ambitions, and then an early exit before the competition truly opened up. That cycle created more than frustration. It created a psychological barrier that followed the club into every February, where the round of 16 became a stage of pressure rather than progression. One of the clearest examples came in 2010, when Real Madrid were eliminated by Olympique Lyonnais at the same stage. That defeat carried extra weight because the Champions League final that season was scheduled to be played at the Santiago Bernabeu, turning a potential home final into a missed opportunity that never materialized. So when Lyon appeared again in the round of 16 the following year, it was another reminder of that unresolved pattern.
The first leg in France reflected that tension. Lyon were compact and disciplined, while Real Madrid tried to control possession and impose themselves without taking unnecessary risks in a tightly balanced tie. When Benzema was introduced, he received a warm reception from the home crowd, a reminder of his connection to the club where he made his name. But that moment of recognition quickly faded as he immediately impacted the game and silenced the atmosphere around the stadium. And then, in the 65th minute, the breakthrough came. After some smooth build-up play from Ozil and Ronaldo, the 23-year-old collected the Portuguese forward's pass in the penalty area, darted cleverly into the space to his right before sliding a shot between Lloris's legs. He had scored with virtually his first meaningful touch after coming on. The goal gave Real Madrid a crucial away advantage in the tie, but the match itself would eventually end 1-1, with Lyon equalizing later through Bafétini Gomes.
Still, the moment carried weight beyond the scoreline. In the stands, Florentino Perez stood up to celebrate, an unusually emotional reaction that stood out given how rarely he expressed himself so openly during matches. Years later, a similar reaction would be seen in the 2014 Champions League final when Sergio Ramos scored the late equalizer against Atletico Madrid, a goal often viewed as the emotional beginning of Real Madrid's modern European dominance. That comparison gives this moment added significance, not as a defining result, but as a signal of something shifting internally. Because this wasn't about winning the match. It was about breaking a cycle that had defined Real Madrid's European campaigns for 6 straight seasons in the round of 16. And the second leg, back in Madrid, where Real went on to win 3-0, confirmed that progression. But the turning point, the moment that changed the feeling of the tie, came in the 65th minute in Lyon.
Goal number 2. Luka Modrić versus Manchester United at Old Trafford in 2013. If the Benzema goal in Lyon represented the breaking of a long-standing psychological barrier, then this next moment was about survival at the highest level of European football. Because by the time Real Madrid traveled to Old Trafford for the second leg of their round of 16 tie against Manchester United in 2013, the margin for error was almost non-existent. The first leg in Madrid had ended 1-1, leaving everything open, but also putting enormous pressure on the away leg in one of the most hostile stadiums in Europe. The context going into the match made the situation even more fragile. Real Madrid had already fallen behind on the night, and during the first half, they lost Ángel Di María to injury, removing one of their key attacking threats in transition. It felt like one of those European nights where control slowly slips away, not through collapse, but through small setbacks accumulating until the game becomes increasingly difficult to manage. Then, the match turned.
After the 56-minute red card for Nani, the entire dynamic shifted. Suddenly, Manchester United were reduced to 10 men, and Real Madrid found themselves with space and control they hadn't had before. Jose Mourinho responded immediately, bringing on Luka Modrić to help take command of the midfield and stabilize the attacking rhythm. At that stage of his Real Madrid career, Modrić was still under heavy scrutiny. His adaptation from Tottenham had not been smooth, and there were constant questions about whether he could truly dictate games at Champions League level in Spain. This was not yet the version of Modrić who would later define European dominance. It was a player still fighting for authority in the biggest matches. But this was the moment where things began to change.
As Real Madrid grew into the game with the extra man, Modrić found space just outside the penalty area, roughly 20 meters from goal. The move builds through controlled possession, with Madrid patiently circulating the ball and looking for a way to break United's defensive line. When the ball arrives at Modric's feet, he doesn't hesitate. He takes a touch, steps outside Michael Carrick to create separation, and opens up a shooting angle in a fraction of a second. From there, he strikes it cleanly. The ball curls away from David De Gea and bends into the left-hand post, nestling into the net to bring the score to 1-1 on the night, restoring Real Madrid's control of the tie at a crucial moment. It wasn't just an equalizer, it was a turning point inside the match and the tie itself. Because without it, Real Madrid risked being pushed into a scenario where another early European exit would have deepened doubts about their ability to consistently perform in knockout football. But the impact went beyond just survival in the game.
This was also a defining moment in Modric's career at Real Madrid. Up to that point, he had been heavily criticized and questioned, struggling to fully establish himself in a team that demanded immediate control in the biggest European nights. But scoring at Old Trafford, in a high-pressure knockout situation, changed how he was perceived inside the squad and across European football. And while Real Madrid ultimately completed the job through Cristiano Ronaldo's winning goal, securing a 2-1 victory on the night and progression overall, the emotional turning point of the tie had already come through Modric's equalizer. In hindsight, even though Décima did not arrive in 2013, moments like this quietly laid the foundation for what followed, because this was where Luka Modrić began transforming from a questioned signing into the midfield controller who would later define Real Madrid's Champions League dominance. It wasn't just a goal that brought them level. It was the moment a system, a player, and a future version of Real Madrid started to take shape.
Goal number 3, Cristiano Ronaldo versus Borussia Dortmund in 2014. By the spring of 2014, Real Madrid had finally escaped the round of 16 curse that had haunted them for years, but the memory of past European collapses was still fresh. No opponent embodied those scars more than Borussia Dortmund. Only a year earlier, Jurgen Klopp's side had delivered one of the most painful nights in modern Champions League history for Real Madrid. Robert Lewandowski's 4-goal masterclass in the 2013 semi-final first leg had left Madrid on the brink of elimination, and although they came close to completing a famous comeback in the return leg, Dortmund ultimately reached the final, while Madrid were left once again empty-handed in Europe. So when the two teams met again in the 2014 quarterfinals, there was a clear sense of unfinished business.
Real Madrid took control of the first leg at the Santiago Bernabeu. Gareth Bale opened the scoring, Isco added a second, and by the second half, Carlo Ancelotti's side looked firmly in command of the tie. But against a team like Dortmund, nothing ever felt completely secure, especially with a return leg waiting in the Signal Iduna Park. Then, in the 57th minute, Cristiano Ronaldo delivered what seemed like a decisive blow. On his 100th UEFA Champions League appearance, Ronaldo latched onto a perfectly weighted through ball from Luka Modrić, took it in stride, and finished with composure past Roman Weidenfeller to make it 3-0. At the time, it looked like the closing moment of the tie, just another Ronaldo goal in a dominant European performance. But in reality, it became the most important cushion of the entire campaign.
The goal also carried individual significance. It was Ronaldo's 14th of that Champions League season, equaling the single-season European Cup record held by Lionel Messi and Jose Altafini. Yet the true importance of the moment would only become clear a week later. Because in Dortmund, everything nearly collapsed. Ronaldo did not play in the second leg due to injury, and without him, Real Madrid were pushed into one of the most difficult away nights of the Ancelotti era.
Borussia Dortmund dominated the match, eventually winning 2-0, and for long stretches it felt like a repeat of the previous season's nightmare was unfolding again. Madrid were under constant pressure, and Dortmund came agonizingly close to forcing extra time. Henrik Mkhitaryan found himself in a golden opportunity after rounding Iker Casillas, with the goal at his mercy and the tie hanging in the balance. But instead of finishing, he struck the post with the net wide open, letting Real Madrid off the hook in one of the most decisive missed chances of Dortmund's modern European history. And that is where Ronaldo's first leg goal becomes so important.
Had the match in Madrid finished 2-0 instead of 3-0, Dortmund's 2-0 win in Germany would have taken the tie into extra time. And given the momentum, atmosphere, and pressure inside the Signal Iduna Park, it is very easy to imagine a scenario where Dortmund could have completed the comeback and eliminated Real Madrid before the semifinals. No extra cushion, no safety net, and potentially no Décima. That is why this goal is remembered far less than it should be. It didn't decide a final, it didn't come in stoppage time, and it wasn't even the standout goal of the match. It was the third goal in a comfortable home win. But without it, Real Madrid's 2014 Champions League story might have ended in exactly the same way as the year before, against the same opponent, in the same stadium, under the same pressure. Instead, that calm finish from Ronaldo in the 57th minute quietly ensured survival. And sometimes in football, survival is everything. And that's the thing about Real Madrid's history in the Champions League. When you look back at it properly, it's rarely just the finals or the trophies that define everything. It's these smaller, almost forgotten moments in earlier rounds that quietly decide what comes next. A goal in Lyon that breaks a pattern, an equalizer at Old Trafford that saves a season from slipping away, a third goal against Dortmund that looks meaningless at the time, but ends up being the difference between survival and elimination. None of these moments feel like history when they happen, but together, they shape it. Because without them, there is no stability. And without stability, there is no Décima, no European dominance, no era where Real Madrid became the standard again in the Champions League. That's what makes football at this level so brutal and so fascinating. The biggest stories are often built on the smallest margins. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, it really helps the channel. And I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Which of these goals do you think was the most important? Or is there another underrated Real Madrid goal you'd add to this list? And if you're new here, subscribe to Madrid Era for more deep dives into Real Madrid history, moments, and untold stories from the biggest nights in football. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.